The grand chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with tension, a cacophony of voices echoing off its iridescent walls. Representatives from dozens of species sat around the massive circular table, their forms ranging from sleek avian-like beings to hulking insectoids. At the center stood Captain Elira Voss, her crimson uniform marking her as humanity's lead delegate. Her sharp green eyes scanned the room, taking in the mix of suspicion, anger, and disbelief etched across alien faces. For decades, humanity had been a rising star within the Council, a coalition that governed trade, diplomacy, and peace among the galaxy's civilizations. But now, they were accused of greed, manipulation, and betrayal. Rumors swirled about secret experiments, stolen resources, and broken treaties. To many, humans were no longer partners but predators. And today, those accusations reached a boiling point. Elira took a deep breath and stepped forward. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice steady despite the weight of what she was about to say. After much deliberation, Earth has decided to withdraw from this assembly. The chamber erupted into chaos. Shouts filled the air as ambassadors leaped to their feet, some protesting, others demanding explanations. The Krillians, six-limbed insectoid warriors, clicked their mandibles furiously, while the empathic Valens recoiled visibly, overwhelmed by the surge of emotions. Even the stoic Corin ambassador raised an eyebrow, his expression unreadable beneath his translucent hood. Elira raised a hand, signaling for silence. Slowly, the noise subsided, though hostility lingered in every corner of the room. This decision was not made lightly, she continued. We believe the Council's rules stifle our growth and innovation. Humanity seeks a future free from constraints imposed by others, a future where we can chart our own course. Her words sparked outrage. A reptilian delegate from the Zarnith collective hissed, "You abandon us after centuries of exploiting our resources. Your ambition knows no bounds." Others joined in, hurling accusations. Some claimed humanity had sabotaged trade routes. Others whispered of covert military buildups on distant moons. Elira listened calmly, her jaw tightening with each barb. She knew these claims weren't entirely baseless. Humanity had pushed boundaries, bending rules to secure its place among the stars. But survival often required hard choices, didn't it? When the clamor died down, Ambassador Silas Tkor of the Corin spoke. His voice carried a quiet authority that silenced even the most vocal critics. Captain Voss, your departure will leave a void, one that may unravel everything we've built. Are you prepared to bear the consequences? Elira met his gaze without flinching. Yes, she replied firmly. And perhaps it is time for the Council to learn self-reliance rather than leaning on humanity at every turn. With that, she turned on her heel and exited the chamber, leaving behind stunned silence. Outside, her crew awaited her aboard the flagship Aurora Dawn. As the ship powered up, thousands of human vessels followed suit, breaking orbit and heading toward uncharted territories beyond Council space. Among the fleet, opinions were divided. Many cheered the bold move, seeing it as liberation. Others, like Dr. Ria Calderon, a xenobiologist watching from the observation deck, felt uneasy. Staring out at the receding stars, she muttered under her breath, "Freedom comes at a cost. I just hope we're ready to pay it." As humanity disappeared into the void, the galaxy braced itself for the unknown. What would happen next? No one could say for sure, but one thing was certain. The balance of power had shifted forever. The departure of humanity sent shockwaves rippling through the Galactic Council, leaving behind a fragile and fractured alliance. Without humans to mediate disputes or enforce compromises, old rivalries resurfaced with alarming speed. The grand chamber that once buzzed with debates now felt hollowed, its iridescent walls dimmed by an air of uncertainty. Ambassador Silas Tkor of the Corin stood silently at the center of the table, his translucent hood shimmering faintly under the artificial light. He watched as chaos unfolded around him. The Krillians, six-limbed insectoids known for their militaristic tendencies, were already on the move. Their leader, Commander Zixkra clicked his mandibles sharply as he addressed the assembly. "Humans are gone," Zixkra declared, his voice buzzing like static. "Their weakness has been exposed. It is time for stronger species to take control." Tensions flared immediately. Nearby, the Valens, a peaceful race of empathic beings, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Their representative, Elder Lyrin, raised a trembling hand. "Conflict will only bring destruction," she said softly, her voice barely audible over the growing din. "We must honor the Council's purpose, unity and cooperation." But her plea fell on deaf ears. Across the galaxy, power struggles erupted almost overnight. The Krillians seized several key star systems previously protected by human patrols, claiming them as strategic outposts. Trade routes crumbled as fear spread among weaker species who feared becoming collateral damage in this new era of aggression. Meanwhile, the Zenari Syndicate, a shadowy network of smugglers and mercenaries, took advantage of the instability. Operating from hidden bases in asteroid belts, they expanded their operations, raiding vulnerable colonies and selling stolen technology to the highest bidder. Their leader, a cunning humanoid named Dax Vorn, smirked as he watched reports of escalating conflicts across the stars. "Chaos is good for business," he muttered to one of his lieutenants. "Let them tear each other apart. By the time they realize what's happening, we'll own half the galaxy." Back at the Council headquarters, Ambassador Tukor tried desperately to maintain order. He called emergency sessions, urging representatives to work together. But distrust ran deep. Accusations flew freely. Some blamed the Krillians for inciting war, while others pointed fingers at the Zenari Syndicate for fueling violence. Even allies turned against each other, fearing betrayal. In private, Tukor reflected on humanity's sudden exit. He had always admired their resilience and ingenuity, traits that made them both admired and resented within the Council. Now their absence left a gaping hole no one seemed capable of filling. "The balance is broken," he murmured to himself late one night, staring out at the stars through the chamber's vast window. "And if it cannot be restored..." His thoughts were interrupted by an urgent message flashing on his console. Scanning the report, his expression darkened. Reports poured in of strange phenomena occurring near abandoned human outposts, ships vanishing without explanation, energy readings spiking unpredictably. Rumors spread of something lurking in the void, waiting to exploit the galaxy's newfound vulnerability. As Tukor prepared to address the Council once more, he couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's departure wasn't just an act of defiance. It was the first domino in a chain reaction that would reshape the galaxy forever. Far away, in the depths of space, remnants of humanity's influence lingered. Derelict stations floated silently, their corridors empty but still humming with latent energy. Among these ruins, scavengers and opportunists prowled, searching for scraps of human innovation. What they found, and what they unleashed, would soon become clear. For now, though, the galaxy remained suspended in a precarious state, teetering on the edge of chaos. The Andromeda expanse stretched endlessly before humanity, a vast, uncharted region of space, untouched by other civilizations. It was here that Captain Elira Voss and her fleet had chosen to begin anew, leaving behind the fractured remnants of the Galactic Council. The stars shone brighter in this distant corner of the universe, their light unobscured by the scars of war or exploitation. To many aboard the ships, it felt like a second chance, a clean slate where humanity could thrive without interference. On a rocky planet named Eos Prime, construction crews worked tirelessly to build the first colony. Towering domes rose from the barren landscape, powered by revolutionary energy reactors salvaged from classified Council archives before humanity's departure. These reactors, capable of harnessing quantum fluctuations, promised unlimited power, a resource that would ensure humanity's survival and prosperity. For weeks, excitement rippled through the settlers as they transformed desolate terrain into bustling hubs of activity. But not everyone shared in the optimism. Dr. Rhea Calderon stood on a ridge overlooking the growing settlement, her arms crossed tightly against the chill of the alien breeze. A xenobiologist by trade, she had spent years studying the intricate ecosystems of inhabited worlds, work now rendered obsolete in this lifeless expanse. Her mind churned with questions about the morality of abandoning the galaxy they once called home. "Do you ever wonder if we made the right choice?" she asked aloud, though no one else was nearby. Her companion, NOVA, an advanced artificial intelligence housed in a sleek wrist-mounted device, responded immediately. From a purely logical perspective, the decision maximizes human autonomy while minimizing external constraints, NOVA said in its calm, measured tone. However, ethical considerations are subjective. Rhea sighed. "That's not what I meant." She glanced back at the glowing domes below. "We left so much behind. Friends, allies, even enemies. What happens to them now? Are we just going to pretend none of it matters?" NOVA paused briefly before replying. "Humanity cannot shoulder responsibility for every species' fate. Survival often requires difficult decisions." Before Rhea could respond, her communicator buzzed urgently. Turning it on, she saw Captain Voss's face appear on the small screen. "Dr. Calderon, report to Command Center Alpha immediately. We've detected something unusual." Curiosity piqued, Rhea hurried toward the command center, weaving through crowds of engineers and supply drones. Inside, she found Voss standing over a holographic display showing the strange signal emanating from deep within the Andromeda expanse. Its pattern was unlike anything they'd encountered before, a rhythmic pulse that seemed almost intentional. "It's coming from Nixora," Voss explained, pointing to a moon orbiting a nearby gas giant. "Initial scans suggest it's buried beneath layers of ice." Rhea frowned. Could it be natural? Some kind of geological phenomenon? Voss shook her head. Unlikely. The frequency matches known patterns used by ancient civilizations for communication. Whatever it is, it's artificial. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the room. Then Rhea spoke up, determination hardening her voice. "We need to investigate. If there's intelligent life, or evidence of past civilizations, it could change everything we know." Voss hesitated but eventually nodded. "Assemble a team. But proceed with caution. We don't know what we're dealing with out there." As Rhea left to prepare, her thoughts raced. Was this discovery a sign of hope, or a warning? Whatever awaited them on Nixara, one thing was certain. Humanity's journey into the unknown had only just begun. Back in Council space, humanity's abrupt departure left behind a trail of unanswered questions and opportunities. Among the remnants of their once thriving presence were abandoned outposts, derelict warships, and forgotten research stations. These relics became battlegrounds for scavengers, mercenaries, and opportunists eager to claim pieces of human ingenuity. On an aging orbital station named Outpost Epsilon, a young Krillian engineer named Jax scoured through dusty corridors littered with broken equipment. His 6 limbs moved deftly as he dismantled panels and sifted through data cores, searching for anything valuable. The Krillians had long admired humanity's technological prowess, and now that they were gone, their creations were ripe for the taking. Jax wasn't alone. A group of rogue Zenari smugglers prowled nearby, their sleek ships docked haphazardly on the station's outer hull. Their leader, Daxforn, had sent them to retrieve whatever they could sell on the black market. Tensions between the two groups simmered, each side wary of the other's intentions. As Jax worked his way deeper into the station, he stumbled upon a sealed chamber marked with a faded insignia, a symbol he recognized from classified council files. It was labeled Project Eclipse, though its purpose remained shrouded in mystery. Intrigued, Jax bypassed the security protocols and stepped inside. The room was filled with holographic displays frozen mid-projection, depicting blueprints of a massive device shaped like a ring. Notes scattered across consoles hinted at its function. a terraforming tool capable of rewriting planetary ecosystems at a molecular level. But warnings accompanied the descriptions, phrases like unstable energy output and potential catastrophic consequences made Jax uneasy. Before he could process everything, footsteps echoed outside the chamber. The Zenari had found him. Cursing under his breath, Jax quickly downloaded the data onto a portable drive and slipped it into a hidden compartment in his armor. As the door slid open, revealing 3 heavily armed smugglers, he raised his hand slowly. "Relax," one of them sneered, leveling a blaster at Jax. "We're just here to collect what's ours." Jax clicked his mandibles nervously but said nothing. He knew better than to argue. Instead, he waited for his chance, biding his time until the smugglers grew distracted examining the room's contents. When they turned their backs, he activated a small EMP device strapped to his belt. The sudden surge of electromagnetic energy disabled their weapons and sent them scrambling. Seizing the moment, Jax bolted down the corridor, his legs pumping furiously as alarms blared throughout the station. Behind him, the smugglers recovered quickly, shouting curses as they gave chase. Bullets whizzed past his head as he ducked into narrow passages, using his familiarity with the station's layout to evade capture. Finally, he reached the hangar bay where his ship awaited. Leaping aboard, he keyed in the launch sequence while dodging incoming fire. With a roar of engines, the craft shot forward, narrowly avoiding collision with the Zenari vessels giving pursuit. As he escaped into the void, Jax clutched the data drive tightly, knowing its secrets could change the fate of the galaxy, or destroy it. Unbeknownst to Jax, word of his discovery spread rapidly. The Krillian High Command intercepted fragments of his transmission and demanded answers. Simultaneously, Dax Vorn vowed revenge, seeing Project Eclipse as the key to expanding his criminal empire. Meanwhile, whispers of the project reached Ambassador Silas, core of the Corin, who feared what might happen if such unstable technology fell into the wrong hands. For now, Jax fled deeper into uncharted territories, pursued by forces far more dangerous than he realized. Humanity's shadow loomed large over the galaxy, and the secrets of Project Eclipse threatened to ignite a new chapter of chaos, one that no species would escape unscathed. The icy moon of Nixara loomed before Dr. Rhea Calderon's shuttle, its surface a jagged expanse of frozen tundra and shadowy craters. Accompanied by disgraced pilot Elias Kane and the ever-analytical AI companion Novia, she prepared to land on this desolate world in search of answers. The mysterious signal they had detected pulsed steadily, growing stronger with each passing moment, a rhythmic beacon calling out across the void. As their ship descended through Nixara's thin atmosphere, Rhea couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "This place gives me the creeps," muttered Elias from the cockpit, his voice tinged with unease. His reputation as a reckless daredevil had earned him few allies, but his skills as a pilot made him indispensable for missions like this. "Focus on the landing," Rhea replied sharply, though her own nerves were frayed. She glanced at Novia's holographic interface flickering on her wrist. "Any updates?" "The signal originates approximately 3 kilometers beneath the surface," Novia reported calmly. "Initial scans suggested emanates from an artificial structure." Once grounded, the trio stepped onto the frost-covered terrain, their boots crunching against layers of ice. The air was thin, forcing them to rely on oxygen tanks strapped to their backs. As they trudged toward the coordinates, strange anomalies began to appear, geometric patterns etched into the ice, glowing faintly despite the lack of sunlight. "These markings, they're not natural," Rhea murmured, kneeling to examine one. Her gloved fingers traced the intricate lines, which seemed to shift slightly under her touch. "It's almost like it's alive." Elias frowned, gripping the handle of his plasma rifle more tightly. "Alive or dangerous, because I don't fancy getting zapped by some alien booby trap." Ignoring his sarcasm, Rhea pressed forward until they reached a massive crater partially obscured by snowdrifts. At its center stood what appeared to be the entrance to an underground complex, an arched doorway carved from sleek black metal, untouched by time or weather. Symbols glowed along its edges, pulsing in sync with the signal. "This is it," Rhea said, her voice tinged with awe. "Whatever built this must have been here thousands, maybe millions of years ago." With Novia's assistance, she deciphered the symbols enough to activate the door, which slid open with a low hum. Beyond lay a labyrinthine construct filled with dimly lit corridors and towering chambers. Strange mechanisms lined the walls, humming softly as if still operational after eons of dormancy. As they ventured deeper, the team encountered increasingly bizarre phenomena. Holograms depicting unknown star systems, walls that seemed to ripple when touched, and floors inscribed with cryptic messages in languages no one recognized. Each discovery raised more questions than answers. Then came the traps. In one chamber, pressure-sensitive tiles triggered bursts of energy beams that nearly incinerated Elias. Later, a collapsing ceiling forced them to scramble for cover, narrowly avoiding injury. It became clear that whoever, or whatever, had built this place didn't want intruders. "This isn't just a ruin," Elias growled, brushing ice off his jacket after another close call. "It's a test, and we're failing miserably." Despite the danger, Rhea refused to turn back. "We're close," she insisted. "I can feel it. This could be proof of a progenitor species, the ones who seeded life across the galaxy." Finally, they'd reached the heart of the structure, a cavernous room dominated by a towering crystalline pillar. Floating within the crystal was a swirling mass of light, pulsating rhythmically like a heartbeat. As they approached, a voice echoed through the chamber, not spoken aloud but resonating directly in their minds. "You are not the first," it intoned solemnly, "nor will you be the last." Rhea froze, staring at the entity before them. Whatever it was, it held knowledge far beyond anything humanity, or any species, had ever encountered. But as the voice continued speaking, dread settled in her chest. This discovery might answer their questions, but it could also unleash consequences none of them were prepared for. Back in council space, the fragile peace that once held the galaxy together had shattered completely. The absence of humanity left a gaping void, and opportunistic species rushed to fill it. The Krillians, emboldened by their military might, launched a brutal assault on the Valen homeworld, a lush planet known for its vibrant ecosystems and psychic inhabitants. Their goal was clear: to harness the Valen's empathic abilities to enhance their own forces. The invasion began without warning. Swarms of Krillian warships descended upon the Valen skies, unleashing devastating barrages of plasma fire. Cities crumbled under the onslaught, and forests burned as shockwaves rippled across the landscape. The Valens, pacifists by nature, scrambled to defend themselves, but were no match for the insectoid warriors' sheer aggression. Elder Lirin, leader of the Valens, stood amidst the chaos, her frail form trembling with both fear and resolve. "We cannot fight them directly," she told her council through telepathic communication, "but we can strike back in our own way." Summoning every ounce of psychic energy they could muster, the Valens unleashed a desperate countermeasure, a massive psychic pulse that radiated outward from their world. The crystalline pillar pulsed with an otherworldly light, its energy resonating through the chamber like a heartbeat. Dr. Rhea Calderon stood frozen, her breath visible in the icy air as the voice continued speaking directly into their minds. "You are not the first," it repeated, its tone calm yet commanding. "Nor will you be the last." Rhea stepped closer, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. "Who, or what are you?" she asked hesitantly. "I am a remnant of the progenitors," the entity replied. Its presence seemed to fill the room, ancient and vast beyond comprehension. "We seeded life across the stars, guiding evolution to create harmony among species. But your kind, the humans, have disrupted this balance." Elias Kane shifted uncomfortably behind her, gripping his plasma rifle tighter. Great, so we're dealing with some cosmic babysitter who's mad at us for leaving the galaxy. Fantastic. The entity ignored him, focusing instead on Rhea. Humanity's departure triggered a chain reaction, a fracturing of the delicate order we established. If left unchecked, this instability will lead to the collapse of all existence. Rhea's mind raced. What do you mean by collapse? What happens if this fracturing isn't stopped? The fracturing is a rupture in the fabric of reality itself, the entity explained. It begins subtly, strange phenomena, unexplained disappearances, but grows until entire star systems unravel. Unless unity is restored, nothing will remain. NOVA chimed in, analyzing the data streaming from the crystalline structure. The signal emanating from this artifact appears to be a warning beacon designed to alert any surviving civilizations of the impending threat. Rhea turned to Elias, her expression grim. This isn't just about humanity anymore. It's about every species in the galaxy. We need to warn them. Elias raised an eyebrow. You think they'll listen? Half the galaxy wants to kill each other, and the other half probably thinks we're nuts. He's not wrong, NOVA added pragmatically. However, failure to act could result in catastrophic consequences. Before Rhea could respond, the ground beneath them trembled violently. The walls of the chamber began to shift, glowing symbols flaring brighter as mechanisms whirred to life. A deep rumble echoed through the complex, accompanied by a mechanical voice announcing something in an unknown language. We've triggered something, Elias muttered, backing toward the exit. Time to go. Rhea hesitated, torn between escaping and gathering more information. The entity's voice interrupted her thoughts. Take this knowledge and share it. Humanity must reunite with the others, or face extinction alongside them. With that, a holographic projection materialized above the crystalline pillar, showing a map of the galaxy overlaid with red zones marking areas already affected by the fracturing. Among these zones were regions near abandoned human outposts, explaining the strange phenomena reported earlier. Enough sightseeing, Elias barked, grabbing Rhea's arm. Let's move. They sprinted back through the labyrinthine corridors, dodging traps and collapsing structures as the facility began to self-destruct. Behind them, the pulsing light of the crystalline pillar grew brighter, signaling the entity's final moments. As they reached the surface, the entrance collapsed in a shower of ice and debris, sealing the artifact away once more. Back aboard their shuttle, Rhea stared at the holographic map stored on NOVA's interface. Her resolve hardened. We have to get this to Captain Voss. And fast. If the galaxy doesn't come together, none of us will survive what's coming. As the shuttle ascended into the cold vacuum of space, the weight of their discovery settled over them. Humanity had left the Galactic Council seeking freedom, but now they faced a choice. Return and fight for unity, or watch as everything unraveled forever. Jax, the young Krillian engineer, fled deeper into uncharted space with the stolen data on Project Eclipse clutched tightly in his possession. His mind raced as he analyzed fragments of the information during his escape. The terraforming device's potential was staggering. But so were its risks. If used improperly, it could destabilize entire planets, rendering them uninhabitable or even tearing them apart. Pursued by both the Zenari Syndicate and his own high command, Jax found himself caught between two dangerous forces. He knew that handing over the technology to either side would unleash chaos across the galaxy. Desperate for guidance, he made a bold decision. Contact Captain Elira Voss, leader of humanity's fleet in the Andromedan expanse. I don't trust you, Voss said coldly when Jax's transmission reached her flagship, Aurora Dawn. Her sharp green eyes narrowed as she studied the grainy hologram of the insectoid engineer. Why should I believe this isn't some kind of trap? Jax clicked his mandibles nervously but remained steadfast. Because Eclipse is too powerful to fall into the wrong hands, and because your species created it. Only humans can stabilize it before it causes irreversible damage. Voss hesitated, glancing at her advisors, who exchanged skeptical looks. Humanity had left the Galactic Council to avoid entanglements like this, yet here they were again, faced with a problem only they could solve. After a tense silence, she nodded. "Send me your coordinates. We'll meet you. But if this is a trick, you won't live long enough to regret it." Meanwhile, Dax Forn of the Zenari Syndicate intercepted fragments of Jax's communication. Enraged at being outmaneuvered, he assembled a strike team to ambush the rendezvous point. "If we can't have Eclipse, no one will," he snarled, plotting to destroy the prototype rather than let humanity regain control. At the designated location, a remote asteroid field littered with drifting debris, the stage was set for confrontation. Jax arrived first, his small ship docking cautiously near a derelict mining station. Moments later, Aurora Dawn emerged from hyperspace, its sleek hull gleaming under the light of a distant star. Before negotiations could begin, however, alarms blared as Zenari ships dropped out of warp, weapons primed. "Looks like we've got company," muttered Elias Kane, piloting one of the escort vessels. "Orders, Captain." Voss clenched her jaw. "Protect the prototype at all costs. Engage only if necessary. We need answers, not another war." The ensuing battle erupted with explosive fury. Plasma bolts lit up the void as fighters darted between asteroids, dodging debris and enemy fire. Inside the mining station, Jax worked frantically to upload the Eclipse data onto a secure drive while keeping an eye on the chaos outside. As Zenari mercenaries breached the facility, he activated automated turrets to hold them off. Back aboard Aurora Dawn, Rhea Calderon joined Voss on the bridge, having returned from Nixara with her own dire warnings about the fracturing. "This isn't just about Eclipse anymore," she urged. "If we stabilize it, we might be able to counteract the effects of the fracturing. But time is running out." As the skirmish intensified, Voss made a daring call. "Deploy the experimental shield generator. They won't risk ramming us if they think we're untouchable." The massive energy barrier enveloped Aurora Dawn, forcing the Zenari to retreat temporarily. In the final moments, Jax transmitted the completed data to humanity's fleet before collapsing from exhaustion. With Eclipse now in their hands, Voss faced a new dilemma. How far was she willing to go to save the galaxy, and at what cost? The battle subsided, leaving behind battered ships and unanswered questions. Humanity had reclaimed its creation, but the true test lay ahead. Could they harness Eclipse without repeating past mistakes, or would their efforts only accelerate the galaxy's descent into ruin? Back aboard the Aurora Dawn, humanity faced a moral and existential crossroads. The data from Project Eclipse was now in their possession, but its unstable nature posed an immense risk. Captain Elira Voss convened an emergency meeting with her senior officers, including Dr. Rhea Calderon, who had returned from Nixara with warnings of the fracturing. The weight of their decision hung heavy in the air. "We can't ignore what's happening out there," Rhea urged, projecting the holographic map of the galaxy onto the briefing room table. Red zones marked areas already affected by the fracturing, spreading like a disease across star systems. "If we stabilize Eclipse, we might be able to counteract these effects, but it requires cooperation. Humanity alone can't fix this." Voss leaned forward, her expression conflicted. "Cooperation? After everything they've done to us? They accused us of betrayal, forced us out, and now you want me to extend a hand." "It's not about trust," Rhea countered. "It's about survival. If the galaxy collapses, we go down with it. Whether we like it or not, our fates are tied together." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had left the Galactic Council seeking freedom, yet here they were again, faced with a problem that demanded unity. Some argued for using Eclipse solely for humanity's benefit, while others saw Rhea's point. Isolation wouldn't save them if the universe unraveled. Meanwhile, Ambassador Silas Tkor of the Korin continued his desperate attempts to rally the fractured council. He called for an unprecedented summit, inviting representatives from every surviving faction, even those hostile to one another. When news reached him of humanity's potential return, he seized the opportunity. Humanity may hold the key to stopping the fracturing, T-Corps told the skeptical assembly. Their technology and knowledge could turn the tide, but only if we set aside our differences long enough to work together. His words sparked heated debate. Many species still harbored resentment toward humans, viewing them as arrogant invaders who had abandoned the galaxy when times got tough. Others, however, recognized the urgency of the situation. The Krillians reluctantly agreed to send emissaries, though Commander Zixkra made no promises of peace. Even the reclusive Valens emerged from isolation, offering their psychic abilities to aid in stabilizing Eclipse. As diplomatic envoys prepared to meet humanity at a neutral location, a derelict space station orbiting a dying star, tension simmered. Old grudges lingered beneath forced smiles and cautious handshakes. For many, this reunion felt more like a reckoning than reconciliation. Upon arrival, Captain Voss addressed the gathered delegates, her voice steady despite the palpable hostility. "We didn't come back because we missed you," she began bluntly. "We came because none of us will survive unless we act now. Eclipse is powerful, but it's also dangerous. If we misuse it, we'll make things worse. Are you ready to cooperate, or will ego and fear destroy us all?" Her bluntness drew murmurs of disapproval, but also reluctant nods. Trust remained fragile, but necessity outweighed pride. Behind the scenes, engineers and scientists worked tirelessly to stabilize Eclipse. Combining human ingenuity with alien expertise, they managed to recalibrate its energy output, transforming it into a tool capable of repairing damaged ecosystems rather than destroying them. Yet progress came at a cost. Sleepless nights, heated arguments, and sacrifices from both sides. As signs of the fracturing grew stronger, entire stars blinking out of existence, planets crumbling into dust, the clock ticked louder. Humanity and the remnants of the Council stood on the brink of either redemption or ruin. Sacrifices would have to be made, bonds forged in fire tested to their limits. Together, they prepared for the final stand, an effort that would determine whether hope could triumph over chaos. The galaxy teetered on the edge of annihilation as the fracturing reached its crescendo. Stars flickered and died, planets shattered into asteroid fields, and entire civilizations vanished without warning. At the heart of the crisis lay a swirling anomaly, a massive rift in spacetime that pulsed with chaotic energy, consuming everything nearby. Humanity and the remnants of the Galactic Council had one chance to stop it, deploying Eclipse, now stabilized through joint efforts, at the epicenter of the rupture. Captain Elira Voss stood aboard the bridge of the Aurora Dawn, watching as fleets from across the galaxy converged on the anomaly. Ships representing dozens of species, Krillian warships, Valon transports, Coran explorers, and even rogue mercenaries, formed an uneasy alliance around the human flagship. For once, old rivalries were set aside, replaced by a shared determination to survive. "This is it," Voss said quietly, her gaze fixed on the growing maw of destruction ahead. "If we fail here, there's no second chance." Dr. Ria Calderon joined her, clutching a data tablet filled with last-minute calculations. The recalibrated Eclipse should counteract the instability, but it has to be deployed within the rift itself. Any mistake could make things worse. Voss nodded grimly. "Then let's not screw it up." The operation began with precision. A fleet of smaller vessels escorted the Eclipse device toward the anomaly, shielded by larger ships firing volleys to hold back waves of corrupted entities, twisted amalgamations of matter and energy spat out by the rift. These abominations attacked relentlessly, their forms shifting unpredictably as they sought to destroy anything near the anomaly. Elias Kane piloted one of the escort craft, his hand steady despite the chaos erupting around him. "You'd think saving the universe would come with a bit more dignity," he muttered over comms, dodging a burst of plasma fire. Behind him, Jack's coordinated defensive maneuvers, his insectoid limbs moving rapidly across controls as he relayed commands to allied ships. As they neared the rift, the resistance intensified. The Krillians, led by Commander Zixkra, launched a desperate assault against the largest wave of entities, sacrificing several ships to clear a path. Meanwhile, the Valens used their psychic abilities to disrupt the creature's cohesion, giving humanity precious seconds to advance. Finally, the Eclipse device reached the threshold of the anomaly. Engineers worked feverishly to activate it remotely, their screens flashing with warnings as the machine absorbed unstable energy. Back aboard the Aurora Dawn, Rhea monitored the process, her voice tense but resolute. "It's working, but it's straining under the pressure. We need to stabilize it manually." Without hesitation, Elias volunteered for the dangerous task. Piloting a single-person shuttle, he navigated through the maelstrom of energy to reach the device. Dodging debris and enemy attacks, he docked with the platform housing Eclipse and stepped outside, tethered to the hull by magnetic boots. His fingers flew over controls as alarms blared around him. "Come on, you piece of junk," he shouted, sweat dripping down his face as sparks erupted from consoles. With a final surge of effort, he stabilized the system just as the shuttle's shields failed. The explosion threw him clear, but not before confirmation lights blinked green. "Eclipse is online," Rhea announced triumphantly. "Initiating sequence now." A brilliant burst of light engulfed the anomaly as Eclipse unleashed its full potential. The rift shuddered, then began collapsing inward, sealing itself like a wound healing. One by one, the corrupted entities dissolved into nothingness, leaving behind a quiet void where chaos once reigned. When the dust settled, cheers erupted across the fleet. Species who had once hated each other embraced, or exchanged nods of respect. Humanity, once reviled, earned newfound admiration for leading the charge. In the aftermath, Ambassador Silas Tkor addressed the survivors. "Today, we chose unity over division, cooperation over conflict. Let this moment remind us what we can achieve when we stand together." Though scars remained, hope burned brighter than ever. The galaxy entered a new era, not defined by dominance or fear, but by resilience and trust. And humanity, having redeemed itself, took its rightful place among the stars.